You can get the Mercer Renaissance for around $50, and I've seen people comparing it to knives that are double, maybe even triple that price point. I've been using this knife for around a month now, and I put it through some pretty tough testing and checked its rust resistance to see if these claims are true or if they're just some clever marketing ploy. Now, one of the first things I like to look at before I even think about buying a knife is the background of the brand and the location of the manufacturer. And when you do that with Mercer, immediate suspicions are raised. Now, Mercer is a pretty new company, so they don't have a long history of making quality kitchen knives. Now, the big players in the knife making industry are usually pretty old, like 50 or 100 years worth of knife manufacturing experience kind of old. Now look, being a new company of course isn't intrinsically a bad thing, but other alarm bells start to ring when you look into the location of manufacture for Mercer knives. Their knives get manufactured in Taiwan, which is frankly a country with little to no history or reputation of making high quality kitchen knives. And so you kind of have to suspect that the reason for manufacturing in Taiwan is to lower the cost of production, rather than ensuring you at the best possible location with the skills and expertise there to make the best quality knife. Again, look, this isn't a disaster, but it does raise suspicions of whether this is just another one of those knockoff brands that uses cheap materials, gets cheaply manufactured, and then gets marketed as a high quality chef's knife, when ultimately it's just a substandard product. So to check, I wanted to look at all the materials that go into making the Mercer Renaissance knife and put it through some pretty tough durability testing. Starting off with the knife handle. It's a triple riveted thermoplastic called POM. Triple riveting refers to the fact that the handle has 3 rivets attaching it to the tang, which is the central steel part of the handle. Basically, it makes the connection between the handle and the blade really strong and is seen in most high quality Western style chef's knives, so that's great. But what's even more interesting is that POM is the exact same material that's used for the handle of this $170 Wüsthof chef's knife. It's a quality, durable material, and so that's a big tick in the box for Mercer. The overall profile of the Mercer knife is clearly taken from the classic Western style chef's knife design, and it's also very similar to the Wüsthof. It's well curved along the edge and it has a good wide blade. It has a half bolster which helps reduce the weight, as well as being many people's personal preference, especially since it makes the knife much easier to hone and sharpen. The handle is classic in design as well. This is a tried and tested style, it's comfortable to use and it provides a decent grip. All in all, the profile for this knife is perfect for those looking for that classic Western style chef's knife. Mercer have kept it very classic with their design, and so frankly they can't go far wrong. The balance of this knife is excellent. It's equal to any knife at any price range. If you hold it where the blade meets the handle, it balances perfectly between the two. It's a great sign, and it's pretty uncommon, especially at knives at this lower $50 and below price range. Since this is a forged blade and not a stamped knife, it does carry a little bit of extra weight. Having a half bolster instead of a full bolster helps to reduce this, and personally, I like having a little bit of weight to the knife. I feel it gives you more control, and a forged knife has much more sturdiness than a stamped knife, where the blade is effectively just cookie cut from a sheet of metal and is usually identifiable from its lack of bolster. So far so good. But what we really need to check is the exact steel that's been used to make the blade, because usually this is where manufacturers opt to use a cheaper steel and pass it off as something of high quality. Mercer make this easy for us because the steel is actually printed right onto the blade itself, which is handy, and it's good news. It's a steel called X50 CR MOV15. You might not recognise it, but if you're in the knife world, you know that steel. It's the steel most commonly used in high-end Western style chef's knives, and once again it's the exact same steel that's used for this $170 Wüsthof classic chef's knife. It's a great steel for 2 main reasons. The first is that it has enough flexibility in the steel to ensure that the edge is very unlikely to chip or crack, while still being able to retain and hold a sharp edge over a reasonable period of time. The Mercer has a 15-degree double bevel edge and has a hardness of 56 HRC. It's easy to maintain and easy to sharpen when that edge finally does lose the razor sharp finish, which is likely to be every 6 to 12 months, depending of course on how much you use it. The second reason why this steel is so good is indicated in the name of the steel itself. The 15 relates to the chromium level. which means 15% chromium. Now chromium is the element in steel that makes stainless steel stainless. Effectively, the higher the level of chromium, the more rust resistant the blade will be. And 15% is about as high as you're going to get with any Western style chef's knives. It's a really good level. Now there are some knives that go a bit higher, and I've seen knives up to 18%, but look, that's pretty rare. 15% is about as good as you're going to get, and of course it's the same as the $170 Wüsthof. Now the durability and the rust resistance are an absolute key factor to a good quality stainless steel chef's knife, so to test it for certain, I wanted to do something that you should never do to any of your knives. I soaked the knife in a bucket of water for 2 hours, and then to create a moist environment, I wrapped it in a wet towel for a further 24 hours. I did this immediately after using it because, in theory, the protective layer created by the chromium should be at its weakest directly after use. It's not just a test for the rust resistance, but it's also to see if the handle material will warp or disform from the moisture levels. 24 hours later and the knife was completely fine. No spots of rust, absolutely no effect on the handle, so that's great to see. Despite being a little dubious at the start, the reality is that this is a superbly designed knife, using top quality materials, and in my opinion, it really is comparable to the Wüsthof Classic, which is 3 times the price. And I think it's by far the best $50 chef's knife you can buy. But before you do think of buying this knife or any chef's knife, you need to know what size to buy, because chef's knives come in all different sizes. Even this one comes in 6, 8 and 10 inches length. To understand which chef's knife size is going to suit you, you need to watch my video here on how to easily select the right size chef's knife. It's going to help you select the right size even if you're shopping online and you don't have access to a knife, and it's super easy to do.